The next thing I want to get into is there is a professor of psychiatry who was suspended for calling a model a freak of nature. A professor of psychiatry was suspended for calling a model a freak of nature. Let's get into it. So John McWhorter wrote in the New York Times, this article is called "One Graceless Tweet Doesn't Warrant Cancellation" by John McWhorter. He writes, Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman, a professor of psychiatry at Columbia University and one of the most accomplished and respected psychiatrists in the world, recently tweeted about Nayakim Gatwech. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Nayakim Gatwech, Gatwech. Recently tweeted about Nayakim, the celebrated American model of South Sudanese descent, who is known for her dark skin, writing, quote, "Whether a work of art or a freak of nature, she's a beautiful sight to behold." A number of people on social media and within and outside Lieberman's profession found his words offensive, particularly his use, freak of nature, and specifically the term freak in a tweet about a black woman. And the sequence of events that followed was sadly all too predictable. That's what John McWhorter writes. And he goes on to talk about how the faculty at Columbia honed in on the word freak, not freak of nature. This guy, Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman, he used the term freak of nature to describe a model who is black. And instead, the comparison started of, oh, you're calling a model who's black, you're calling this black woman a freak. And that was the narrative that began to take hold and ultimately led to him leaving his position. But I wanted to talk about this because I've had experience with the term freak of nature. And no, I've never been called a freak of nature because I am not one. I have been called a freak, but freak of nature is a term in sports, in baseball especially. When you call someone a freak of nature, it's a term of endearment. It's a good thing. It means like there's something about you that's so, physically gifted. You're strong, you're fast. It's like typically in sports, it's very hard to be both very strong and very fast. That's why someone like Mike Trout is a freak of nature. He steals a lot of bases and he hits a fuck ton of home runs. Same thing with Barry Bonds. He hit a shit ton of home runs and stole a lot of bases earlier on in his career until he got much, much larger off of some supplements. Love Barry Bonds, by the way. But yeah, freak of nature, it sounds like I could understand people taking it as, oh, like freak of nature, freak. No, it is a good thing to say about it. If someone called me a freak of nature, I'd be like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I appreciate that. Like it's you're complimenting the person. You're saying there's something physical about you that is abnormal in a good way. You're off the charts physically. And, I can't talk to how this term is used in modeling. But I can tell you in sports and in baseball specifically, when I say, oh my God, that dude's a fucking freak of nature. Sometimes even if I just said he's a freak, that would be a compliment. Like, oh dude, like that dude is a fucking freak. Like he hit 40 bombs last year. Like that is something positive. And they also, so when apparently, again, they separated the term freak from freak of nature. They said, oh, you're calling this black woman a freak. You're tying back into an old insult thrown towards black women's bodies, that they're freakish or freak-like. Which again, I can see that, but that's not what freak of nature means, and it probably wasn't the smartest thing for this professor to be saying. There are other things that a psychiatrist could be spending his time better. But again, it's a compliment. And so when you separate the term freak from freak of nature, when you spread propaganda like the Russians, because that's what the faculty at Columbia is. They're Russian assets spreading propaganda. When you separate the term freak from freak of nature and you cut it out and you grab it and you just say, this is what he said, he called this person a freak, you are totally changing the entire meaning. Freak of nature is a phrase that means a positive physical specimen. It's a good thing. And freak could go either way. Some people use freak as positive, like, oh, you're super freak. And other people are like, oh, dude's a fucking freak, like, ew. So it makes it more ambiguous, and it makes it easier to get this guy the job because you're taking away what he actually said. It's like if you had the phrase son of a bitch. If I called my friend, I was like, you son of a bitch. Like, that's a playful thing. Sometimes it's even a compliment. Like, I respect you, you son of a bitch. Like, it could be a thing. But if you take away son of a and I just said bitch, that's totally different. If I just said, you're a bitch, that's a totally different thing. Just like if you say freak of nature, if I'm like, yo, he's a freak of nature, and I take it away, I say, he's a freak. You don't know. There's less context there. Again, it's probably not the smartest thing as a psychiatry professor to be thoughting on Instagram between sessions or wherever he tweeted out this phrase. What he said, whether a work of art or a freak of nature, she's a beautiful sight to behold. It just says on social media. Recently tweeted. So whether a work of art or freak of nature, she's a beautiful sight to behold. It's probably not the smartest thing as a professor of psychiatry at Columbia to be thoughting on Instagram or Twitter between sessions, between class. You know, I'm a dumb podcast person. I'm a scroller, you know. I've thought it around on Instagram, on Twitter, you know. I've been someone who leaves comments and I'm just like, oh shit, girl. God damn, you a freak. But you also don't see me giving TED Talks on psychiatric disorders. So sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you need to get out of your lane, but sometimes it's good to stay in your lane in your public life. So if you're treating people for schizophrenia, you're prescribing medication, you are, writing scripts, treating psychiatric disorders, it may not be good to also be tweeting at supermodels, calling them freaks of nature. That's just me. Again, I understand both sides. I understand where this guy's coming from. He meant it as a compliment. Freak of nature is a good thing. I also understand the opposing view, which is, you're using the term freak, within the phrase freak of nature. So using the phrase freak of nature, but the term freak is triggering when used with black women because there's a dark and dirty history with that word and black women's bodies. But does the guy deserve to lose his job? And John McWhorter goes on to write, he says, for someone to instead almost instantly be suspended from one job, dismissed from another, and resigned from a third because of such a thing is disproportion of punishment to crime. It is extreme and unnecessary and ultimately lacks reason. There's something amiss if we're now at the point that someone's career is to be permanently tarnished and perhaps ended based on a passing error, which started as a misguided attempt at praise and which has been profusely apologized for. So this guy apologized. We must assess what the actual purpose of this kind of language policing is. We must ask, what in terms of combating racism is accomplished? Will it result in better and more available psychiatric care or Medicare in general for black people? Will it make Columbia University, where I am a faculty member, a more open-minded place? And that is the end of the quote. And my answer is no. Again, cutting the conversation off doesn't do shit. Because even if it wasn't the smartest thing in the world, I don't think this guy did anything wrong, and he apologized for it. What kind of world are we living in if someone loses their job, loses their career, permanently tarnished? If you can't make a mistake publicly, say that you're wrong, and then move on. Which is why I love podcasting so much, because I am in charge of what I say. I work with a great team for video, audio production, graphics, work with a great studio. You know, there's a few people that go into this podcast that it wouldn't be the same without. So I do work as a team, but ultimately when I put out an episode, I say what I want. And if I fuck up or I say something, someone sends me a comment, or I look back on a clip and I'm like, oh, like that does not sound, that's not good. I'm just like, wow. And I don't mean not good as cringe. I mean like, oh, I got that wrong, because I've said cringy shit before on the podcast, and that's part of being a podcaster. That's part of releasing conversations out into the wild on a regular basis. But when I'm wrong, I can admit it without someone tapping me on the shoulder and saying, hey, you're fired. That would be amazing if I released a podcast and when I got a bunch of things wrong, and then Trump just came in and tapped me on the shoulder, and I'm like, oh shit, what's up? You're fired. Oh, okay, shit. Thanks, Donald. Why is that the solution, to kick people out of their job? That, again, that's, is this guy, like, did he really need to learn a lesson? Can we stop trying to teach people lessons by canceling them? The lesson we need to teach is that stop trying to become interesting by canceling other people, because that is what really is going on here. It's that the people, the faculty at this place, you know, some of these people are probably great teachers, professors, but some of them probably also wanted to do other shit with their lives, and they ended up becoming a professor, and they're not happy. You know, maybe they have tenure, maybe they don't, maybe they're trying to get social credit points by calling out another professor and rising up the ladder towards tenure. And they're trying to be interesting by canceling people. And you're sending a message that, yes, this works. You can climb the social ladder by pointing out things that don't matter to get people fired. And you ascend, and then you talk about it at a cocktail party, how offended you were. Then drop the N-word in private. But still, that is, it's dumb. I don't know what else to say. You know, again, John McWhorter writes, what's accomplished? Will it result in better, more available psychiatric care? No. You have more psychiatric patients, because I imagine people that get canceled, some of them spiral into an unsavable mental place. So I guess you have that going. Does it help medical care in general? No. Does it help black people? No. How does not getting... It hurts black people, honestly. Because freak of nature is a compliment. So now you have less compliments being dished out to black people. Will it make Columbia University a more open-minded place? No. That's the opposite of open-minded, which is closed. When you're not able to have a conversation, when you get fired on Zoom without being able to articulate your side in a coherent fashion and say, hey guys, you know, maybe I fucked up. Definitely wasn't smart, but I'll be better about it next time. You know, he just needed a child lock on his Twitter. And instead they said, you're never teaching again. Your career is over. So I am glad I'm not a professor. I'll say that. Hey guys, this is a quick reminder to check out Auxoro Premium, the best deal in premium podcasting. On Auxoro Premium, you gain access to bonus episodes, the unlicensed therapy series, the ability to submit topic suggestions for the podcast, exclusive Ask Me Anything episodes, and the entire premium catalog for only $5 per month. Go to auxoro.supercast.com, that's AUXORO.supercast.com, to join the premium gang today.